They laughed at me at my own grandfather's funeral. My cousins celebrated millions, while I stood there holding a crumpled envelope with nothing inside but a single one-way plane ticket to Rome. That day, I was humiliated. 6 months later, the same people who mocked me were begging for my forgiveness. My name is Nathan Whitmore, and this is how the worst day of my life became the beginning of everything I never knew I needed. The Rochester Country Club was heavy that October afternoon, filled with polished mahogany tables and whispers of greed. My cousin Preston, sharp in his $5,000 Armani suit, was already rehearsing his CEO speech. His sister Mallory, hidden behind designer sunglasses, was silently planning Instagram posts about her new yacht. Their parents, Vernon and Beatrice, stood like vultures, eager to devour the empire my grandfather, Roland Whitmore, had built from a single fishing boat after World War II. When the will was read, Vernon and Beatrice inherited the Hamptons estate and a lucrative portfolio. Preston inherited Whitmore Shipping itself, with the condition that he maintain employment levels for a year. Mallory inherited a penthouse in Manhattan and the family yacht. And then came my turn. The lawyer slid a small worn envelope toward me. Inside was a single plane ticket to Rome. My cousins burst into laughter. Vernon smirked and said, "Your grandfather gave you something nice. A sentimental parting gift for a fool." But the lawyer's final words silenced the room. "There is also a letter for Nathan, to be opened only upon his arrival in Rome." That night, I sat in my small Detroit apartment, staring at the ticket. My bank account held less than $2,000. My rent was due, and my car needed new brakes. Every logical part of me said going to Rome was insanity. But I remembered my grandfather's last chess lesson. Real trust is knowing when to follow without understanding why. And so, I packed my bag, arranged a substitute teacher at school, and boarded the flight. Rome was chaos. The airport buzzed with languages I didn't understand, families reuniting, and tourists fumbling with maps. I was lost, until I saw a man in a black suit holding a sign, Nathan Whitmore. His name was Lorenzo. He explained that my grandfather had owned an estate in the Sabin Hills for 45 years. Every September, Roland visited for 1 week, always alone. My family never knew. The drive north revealed vineyards and olive groves under the golden Italian sun, a world my grandfather had kept hidden. When the gates of Monterey Estate opened, I stepped into another life. Inside the old villa, I found dust, silence, and a study untouched since my grandfather's last visit. On the desk was a letter. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Nathan, if you're reading this, it means you trusted me. There are debts of honor I could never repay. They now belong to you." In a hidden compartment of the desk, I found a key and a slip of paper with a single number, 1947. That number haunted me. Days later, in Rome's archives, I discovered that 1947 was the year after my grandfather left the Navy. Records hinted at a mysterious shipwreck, a cargo lost at sea, and a secret deal that shaped his future empire. An elderly historian whispered to me, "Your grandfather wasn't just a businessman. He was a keeper of something valuable." But before I could ask more, I realized someone was following me. A black car lingered at every turn. Back at the estate, Lorenzo revealed the truth. "Your grandfather knew this day would come. He asked me to protect you." Together, we unlocked a safe hidden in the wall. Inside were photographs, Roland with men I didn't recognize, and my father, Dennis, who had died when I was just 15. My heart broke all over again. My father had known about this place. He had been part of this secret. In another envelope addressed to me, my grandfather confessed, "Your father trusted me with something precious, and I failed him. Now you must finish what we began. This estate, this land, and what it hides, it is your responsibility now." The responsibility was staggering. The documents pointed to a deal worth billions. Hidden shipping routes, international connections, and assets my cousins knew nothing about. Meanwhile, Preston's grip on Whitmore Shipping was slipping. Rumors of corruption spread. Vernon grew desperate. My phone buzzed with threats, offers of bribes, even pleas to come home. But I had already chosen my side. I returned to the U.S. quietly, evidence in hand. At a board meeting filled with Whitmore executives, Preston boasted about profits. That's when I stepped forward. Documents spread across the table and exposed forged contracts, false accounting, and Vernon's trail of fraud. Preston's face turned pale. Beatrice gasped. For the first time, I wasn't the quiet history teacher. I was a Whitmore playing his move. But this was never about money. Vernon cornered me later and said, "You don't understand what your grandfather was protecting. He wasn't keeping wealth for himself. He was protecting people. The workers, the families, the generations who depended on Whitmore Shipping." And suddenly everything clicked. Roland's lesson wasn't about building an empire. It was about legacy, responsibility, purpose. My cousins had inherited yachts, penthouses, and corporations. But I had inherited the truth, the burden, the mission. When I returned to my classroom weeks later, my students noticed I seemed different. Because now, when I taught them about history, I wasn't just reading from a book. I was teaching from my own story. A story of sacrifice, betrayal, and trust. And I remembered my grandfather's final words during our last chess game. Best moves, Nathan, are the ones your opponent never sees coming. That funeral. My cousins thought they had won everything, but in the end, they had only won the pieces. I inherited the board,